Vikas Chauhan, and in today's video session, we will discuss the last topic of Unit 4. I think two more lectures would come on Unit 5. So Unit 5 would be, it's all theoretical, and it would be two lectures would be enough to cover the Unit 5. And this is the last topic of Unit 4 as well. In this lecture also, we don't have anything as such to implement as a practical. If I find anything useful that we can cover as a practical, I'll provide one question from this part, but I couldn't find any such question. So without any further ado, let's discuss, let's move on to these topics. First, we will discuss how Scala is related to OOPS. Okay. Later on, we will discuss the topic that we have skipped in first or second unit about the upper type bound and the lower type bound. So I meant to discuss in this unit in detail. So it would be easy for you guys to understand this topic now. At the end, we will also discuss what is pure and impure function. Okay. So without any further ado, let's start with the first thing is how Scala is related to OOPS. So Scala is actually the hybrid language, which is based on the functional and the object-oriented programming both. Okay, it is the combination or the hybrid uh, between functional and object-oriented programming. Okay, so it would provide you, the features of some of the features of functional and some of the features of object-oriented programming both. Okay, and it is also very easy and very smooth to integrate the object-oriented and functional features as well. So what kind of features object-oriented programming or your functional languages would provide is mainly the functional language would provide you to make code inside method and functions that I have discussed in earlier units. So I don't need to get into what is functional language. Just a brief that functional language will provide you a structure to to put all your code inside individual functions. But in real life scenarios, all the events we cannot relate with just a function. We have to create objects. So object is more realistic approach to write your code. So Scala would provide you both the features where you can apply OOPS concepts as well. You can apply the functional languages features as well. So let's discuss what is class and object, how to create class and object. We will discuss how to create variables and field in a Scala. Okay, we have already discussed these topics in previous units. It is the combination of OOPS we are going to discuss. We will discuss how to define a method or function in Scala. Even we can create constructors in Scala, and the major principles of OOPS, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. We will also discuss what are these in the Scala. Okay, we have already studied these concepts in C++ as well, but we will discuss these topics and how you can achieve encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism in Scala as well. Okay, so first let's discuss how to create a class. So as we know that simply by writing class keyword and then putting the name in first letter of the word would be capital, we can create a class. Okay, and we can simply start the class like this. And how to create the object of this class? By simply writing new keyword and the class name. And you can store this object in the val or where. Okay, you have a choice. You want to use a mutable or immutable object. Okay, so this is how you can create a class, and this is how you can create an object. Okay, how you create a field? It is very simple by using val or where. As you can see over here, the name is the variable, the weight is the variable. Here the weight is integer type, which is one value, and name is the string type, which is the value. White is the value of name. So this is how you define your variables. So these things we have already discussed in previous unit. It is just the combination of all the things so that we can understand what is OOPS in Scala. Uh, I'll come to the constructor later. First, let's discuss how to define a method. So method is very simple. We use def to define a method. Okay, and like as you can see, here is the main method we are defining, and it is not returning anything. We are not supposed to return anything, or we have to write the return type over here. Okay, generally. This is how you define a method. But why we use method? Because we want it is similar to the functions in uh, this type of languages like functional languages and the feature oriented or the procedural languages. We call method as a function, so we can write a specific code related to that particular task. Okay, so in a Scala, method serves the same purpose. So in a Scala, we create method using def, and then we can write the code. We can write, pure and impure function. We can make it pure and impure. We will learn later on that what is the difference between pure and impure methods. Okay, but as of now, you just need to know that a method can be pure and impure. We will see what is the difference between pure and impure. So this is how you use using def keyword. You can define a method. So in OOPS, we have a study class, object, variable, fields, methods, and functions. So functions, we also say the method as a function in different languages. Okay, like functional languages, we don't say it's a method. We say it's a function. And how to create constructor? It is the how to say it is main important feature of OOPS, that when you create an object, okay, during that time you can pass the variables. Okay, during that time you can pass the variables to the class object. Okay, so it is similar to Java or similar to C++. As you see, the bread is a class and we are creating an object of that class and we are passing two strings in that class. So in this case, we don't need to create a constructor separately. With the name of the class, we can directly use the parameters for that class. So as you can see, first name is the string, and say last name is also a string. And we are passing these variables, so you can catch these variables during the class declaration itself. So this is a special thing about Scala, that you can mention the parameters of the constructor with the class name itself, and this is how you do that. Okay, and after that you define the methods. So this is very usual, and why we use actually the constructor, because we want to initialize some values of some of the values of the class. Okay, during the object creation. So we have done with the constructor as well. Let's come to the encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. So in what is encapsulation? Where we can bind our data in method in a specific way, where we can achieve the data privacy, is called the encapsulation. Okay, so it is the idea of bundling the data in the method in a particular fashion. So as you can see in this example, I have taken a class. The name of the class is bread, and this is how you define a parameterized constructor in a Scala. Okay, and there is a private variable. Okay, in a Scala we can use private, protected, and public, three access modifiers. Okay, and accordingly we can choose the visibility of these variables inside the class, outside the class, or during the inheritance. So this private variable is actually nothing but the concatenation of both first and last name. Okay, and there is a display method which is actually printing all these values, first name, last name, and the name actually. And if we call this display method from the main method, okay, we would be creating a bread object like this. Earlier we have seen this. This object will be creating, similar object will be creating by passing the two strings. Okay. So in that case, as you can see, this name will only be visible inside this class only because it's a private variable. But these are generally the public variables which can be seen outside the class as well. But here, as you can see, only this variable is the private. It means by making a variable private, this variable will only be seen inside the class. So that is the one thing you should remember. So by providing these access modifiers, we can choose the visibility of we can restrict the visibility of a variable somehow, right? So this is how you can achieve the encapsulation by providing a structure to the data and the method in a specific format, and also can apply the access modifiers in a particular manner, so the data security can be maintained. And now let's come to the inheritance. So inheritance is similar to C++. We use expand to inherit. some of the properties, existing properties of the previous class. So as you can see, there is a class 1, which is having only one variable named Ankita. And there is a class 2, which is extending class 1, okay, and introducing new variable, which is article number 130. So as you can see, this name, it is this, this class 2 is directly accessing this name because it is extending class 1. So it can access the variable name. And this article number is the variable of this class only. So it is no problem with that. So when you want to access the features of previous class, you can extend that class. You can make that class as your super class. So inheritance concept is also there in the Scala. If a question would come in exam that what is inheritance, you should write what is the benefit of inheritance in Scala or in C++, both would be same, and you can mention this example as well. Let's come to polymorphism. It is similar to C++ as well. How you can achieve the polymorphism by using method overloading or method overriding, right? What is method overloading? When you can use the same name of the method with different arguments or different types of argument. Okay, so in your class you would have the same name method. Let's say there are this function and this I think I think wait. So this def function is also there, but it is taking 2 parameter and this is taking 1 parameter. This is called method overloading, where you can use the same name of method with different arguments, right? Now, polymorphism you can achieve, you can have the similar name and you can, define different logics. This is the way to achieve the polymorphism. What is method overriding? Method overriding is nothing but when overriding is actually in subclass to redefine the implementation of the method provided by the superclass. It means you already have a method inside your superclass and then you want to redefine the logic. So in that case, in your subclass, you again define that function for different logic. In that case, this is called overriding. So if you any language will provide you overloading, method overloading, and method overriding, then this language, that particular language would be, OOPS based language, or it would provide you the polymorphism technique. Okay, so Scala would provide you the polymorphism technique by method overriding and method overloading. So we are done with all the key features of OOPS and the functional languages, and how the Scala is related to object oriented and the feature or the functional languages. So we are done with that. Let's discuss what is upper bound and what is lower bound. Okay, so for that, you just let's first discuss this example. Let's understand this code, and then we can understand what would be the lower bound and what would be the upper bound. So as you can see, we have car class. Car class is the super class of sports class. Okay, sport car, and racing car is actually the subclass of sport car. So there are one ways to describe these classes. Car is the superclass of sport car, and sport car is the superclass of racing car. Or another way we can say this, racing car is the subclass of sport car, and sport car is the subclass of car superclass. So we have two ways to represent this hierarchy or the multi-level inheritance. So when there is a multi-level inheritance and we want to restrict the variable as a return type, what it means, what I said is, when you want to restrict that whatever object you are passing, it should be sports car. It means in this hierarchy, car, sports car, and racing car, the object should be restricted to sports car only. So in multi-level hierarchy, when we want to restrict the passing object to be a particular type, then we have to use the lower bound or the upper bound. So in one case, as you can see, there is a car, there is a sport car, and there is a racing car. This is the hierarchy. The arrow would come from top to down, car, top to down, sport car, and then top to down, racing car. So this would be the hierarchy. So car is the supreme super class, okay, among this hierarchy. Among this all these classes, or in this hierarchy, car is the supermost super class, we can say. Okay, at the top, car would be there, and then sport car, and then the racing car. And we want the object should be of a sport car. Then we have to restrict that object by using lower bound and upper bound. So let's see the code once again. So there is an object hello sample, and there is a main method which is returning nothing. So unit in this case, if you are writing unit, it means your function is simply doing something but returning nothing. So in this main method, you are calling this method, you are passing two variables. One is object. So if you want to pass an object, you have to use these square brackets. And this is the variable. This is how you pass the variable. So you are passing object and the variable. So object of what type? Sport car. It means in this hierarchy, car, sport car, and racing car, we want the passing object of a particular type. Okay, we are passing a sport car, but will this get my stack function would accept this object or not? Because in the definition of that function, as you can see over here, define get my stack. Okay, we have restricted this argument. T is actually the generic type. So generic type means you can pass any of the object, either of car class, sport car, or racing car. But I have restricted that T or the generic variable you are passing in a particular fashion. Okay. So if you are passing T, okay, which would be according to the symbol greater than colon racing car and less than colon car. Okay, we need to understand the meaning of this. It means we are putting some kind of restrictions on T of T should be of racing car or something car or something like that. We need to understand what is the meaning of this statement. This T is greater than colon racing car and less than colon car. This num integer is the 10. We are passing as a 10. Okay, and what it is happening, it is actually as you can see, if everything would be okay, then it would create the new object of my stack class. As you can see over here, my stack would be of that object. It would create a new object of that class if this condition would be okay. So what is the meaning of this condition? T greater than colon and racing car is T less than colon car. It means let's come to understand the meaning of T greater than colon racing car. So we can say T greater than colon S. Let's say racing car is the X type of class, and then let's understand what is the meaning of that. So T greater than colon S would be the lower bound. Okay, but why it would be the lower bound? Because lower bound is represented by greater than colon. But what is the meaning of this symbol? Let's understand. By using this greater than colon, we are saying to the compiler that this T is actually the unknown. This is the generic type. As you can see in this example, T is actually generic type, right? But we know the S. Okay, we know the S. So it means we know the type of S, but we don't know the type of T. That we are going to decide what could be the type of T, but we know the type of S. So S is a class, we know that. So by writing this T greater than colon S, we are saying that whatever the T would be, okay, the T parameter would either be S or the equal of S. Okay, it means if S is the sport car, let's say S is the type of sports car class, okay, then either T could be sports car object, okay, a new object of a sports car, or the super type of S. It means in this hierarchy, as you can see, T could be either of sports car type or the super type means or the car type. Super type of sports car. It means we are saying by writing this T greater than colon S, we are saying to the compiler that T can be S or the superclass of S. So when such a restriction is there, it is called the lower bound. We are saying at max you can go to this child. Above that you cannot go, but you can refer to the superclass of this child. This is the actual meaning of lower bound. On the contrary, what would be the meaning of upper bound? Upper bound would be t less than colon s. It means t, either t could be s, okay, the t could be of sports car, or it could be racing car. Means racing car is the subtype of sports car. It means t less than colon could be, t could be s or the subtype of s. As you can see, as it could be s or the subtype of s. You just need to remember in that in case of upper bound, t could be the s or the subtype of s. It means this would be your upper bound. This could be, you can choose the subtype of this class, but the upper bound of, the limitation is this child only. You can go down to the hierarchy for the, the further childs. You can access the further child. You can pass the further childs, but for the supermost class, this should be the upper bound. This is the actual meaning of upper bound. So, uh, t greater than colon s would be lower bound, and t less than colon would be the t greater than colon s would be the lower bound, and t less than colon would be the upper bound. So in this example, what is the meaning of this statement is t whatsoever you pass t should be, okay, as you can see here, this greater than, okay, t could be of type racing car or the super class of racing car. So what is the super class of racing car? Sports car or car. So you can pass either car, sports car or racing car. Everything is allowed. But it is also saying that T should also be less than colon car. It means it can maximum be of car. T can be car or the subtype of car. So it is okay. You can pass either of the object. Either it is saying you can use car in this statement less than colon. It is saying car. Okay. It is saying T can be car or the subtype of car. It means T can be car, sports car, and racing car. So by this statement, you are saying what you can pass either of the object, because racing car you have written over here. It is saying that okay, the T can be of racing car or the super type of racing car. And by this statement, you are saying T can be of car or the subtype of car. So you can pass either of the object in this statement, and it will create a new object for you. So this is the actual meaning of upper bound and the lower bound. So when we can use this upper bound and lower bound, let's say we have 20 such child of car class, and we want only, let's say, the fifth, whatever the class would be on fifth child, we want the object to whatever object you would pass of that type only, or the super type about that fifth child. You can pass child 4, child 3, child 3, child 2, child 1. So when such a scenario would be there, you can use the lower bound and upper bound. Let's discuss the last topic. Last topic is the pure and impure function. It is very, very simple. You don't need to, you can read all these whatsoever written over here. You just need to understand whatever whenever you write a function, okay, if it would change the actual value of a variable. As you can see, we are passing, pure function is saying, let's understand what I have written as a pure function. So, uh, the pure function doesn't change the variable. It means, let's understand this function. It is actually you are passing a, okay, okay. You have a somewhere here, okay. I have not defined a over here, but you can define, in this object somewhere you can define the variable a. Okay, here you can define where a would be of integer type. Okay, let's see. This is the scenario. So you are passing 4 in a square, and it is actually taking a. Okay, this is actually taking a. So okay, we don't need to mention a new variable, because it is there is a parameterized variable. So you are passing a, and you are making the change in a and is storing that particular value in the a itself. So after this square, the value of a square, let's say 4 square, if we do the square of 4, it would return the result and store the value inside the A itself. So in that case, the value of A would be the square of a number. In that case, the actual A has changed, right? So in that case, this function is called impure function because it is not retaining the actual value of the variable. So when the function is not retaining the actual value of a function, it is called impure function. But when the function would retain, as you can see, it is simply storing the value in B and it is printing B and A separately. It is not changing the value of A. So in that case, it is called pure function. So pure function would not change the actual value of a variable. So this is all about pure and impure function. Okay. So so far, these are the last topic of Unit 4. Two more lectures would also come on Unit 5, and not many practical. I think one practical only would be there from the from that unit also. So thank you so much, and this is all for today. And have a good day.